ankle.
Allan Beswick with you on the phones. 0161 228 2255.
BBC Radio Manchester.
It's a really unsettled day today. We're going for sunshine and showers. Unfortunately, the showers are borne in on a strong wind. Some of them will be heavy. There could be some hail. In between them, well, there will be some spells of sunshine. But we can't promise that it'll do anything at all for your temperatures. You're going to peg at 13 Celsius.
My word.
Lunchtimes belong to Beswick.
Allan Beswick.
BBC Radio Manchester.
Hiya. Are you all right? Okay, so am I. What do you want to say for yourself today? Out or out? It's up to you. I'm not fussed either way. Telephone number, usual one, 0161 228 2255. Feel free. The email address, radiomanchester@bbc.co.uk. And the text number is 07786 206 951. That's it. I got nothing else. Yeah. I do like the story of the teenager getting mugged by... It doesn't say the gender of the teenager. I suppose if she was a female teenager and not gay, she wouldn't be over keen on getting mugged by 4 women in nothing but... in nothing but suspenders and tights. I know. But if it was a chap and he wasn't gay, he'd think, well, this is all right, isn't it? I mean, if you've got to go, hey, it's not a bad way to go, is it? Exactly. In fact, he'll be there tomorrow with another 50 quid. 50 quid a day? By Jove, you could make it work. Oh, we're not making light of crime. Don't be giving me a bad time. It was almost funny, and we'll settle for almost. 0161 228 2255. David says, back to yesterday. Why do we want to go back to yesterday? Oh, well, never mind. It's up to you. I do say you're free. It's back to yesterday. If one gets to 60, then one should have had a good life. If anyone over that age who doesn't feel they can contribute further, should they have the right to depart this life and the doctors be able to help? I'm not talking about forcing them, he says. I wear a dog tag saying that I don't want reviving. I don't want to have the last memories of this world to be someone trying to jumpstart me with electric shock or any other invasive way they might have. I've no worries about going when it's me time. I've done what I thought was the best all my life. Getting it wrong sometimes. I hope I can be forgiven for that. But I've always tried. If one can continue to do good after 60, then great, and feel that you're giving to humanity. I'm quite sure you could go on into your 80s. So says David. Well, you see, the thing is, having old people, and I'm not good with old people. When I was nursing, when I was doing psychiatric nursing, I hated geriatric nursing. I absolutely hated it. I found it utterly tedious. But nonetheless, I'm not sure I'd want to do away with them because they're a source. Old people, I suppose there are people listening now who think I'm old, which is fair enough, but old people are a source of information. They are. What was it Gordon Brown said at the Labour Party conference? He said, this is no time for a novice. The number of companies, and that probably includes the crackpots that have led us into the abyss in the city, the number of companies that have got rid of all their older workers and now regret it because there's nobody there that's done it all before. That's the thing. And even if they're not working, it's pretty damn good to have somebody who's seen it all before. They've seen wars come and go. They've seen bankruptcies come and go. They've seen millionaires come and go. They've seen little fat broadcasters come and go, bosses come and go, murderers come and go. And I just think sometimes talking to older people is like a massive learning curve, because you're discovering, A, that what you're facing is no big deal. There's been a shed load stared down exactly the same barrel, so it doesn't matter. But also, they've got some sense of how to get through it. Usually the sense is topped by sit still, do nothing, and let it pass over you. That is often, not always, that is often the best thing to do. But the worst thing to do is to run around panicking. And old people don't do that. Old people say, look, tomorrow the sun will come up. Nothing else really matters. So I'm not sure I agree. Of course, if people want to top themselves, let them get on with it. But I don't think it should be the job of the medical profession to implement that, not by any stretch. I don't think it should involve them at all. Who it should, if it's just a case of I've had enough, I want to go, then let them find their own ways. If they're extremely ill with no chance of recovery, then possibly that's a matter for the medical profession, because it's easing distress, even if it's easing distress by death. Anyway, there you are. So, I don't know. Henry in Prestbury says, what a wonderful result for the Gurkhas at the High Court yesterday, and how grand to hear the cheers of the crowd for them outside court. It just goes to show how British people respect foreigners who've shown loyalty to our country with their heroic actions. The judge, Mr. Justice Blake, according to Henry, made clear that long military service of these men, their wounds sustained in battle, their conspicuous acts of bravery, their acts of gallantry, and their commitment and loyalty to the Crown all point to an unquestionable, historic, moral debt of honour and gratitude, which the ordinary people of Britain embrace and celebrate. Other races should sit up and take notice that if they want the same respect, they'll not get it by creeping around British airports and railways with fertiliser nail bombs to murder and maim the British public. Well, of course, Henry, those that do creep around Britain's airports and railways with fertiliser nail bombs to murder and maim the British public, or even those that blow up town centres in Warrington and set bombs in Manchester, they don't want the respect of the British public. They don't. They want the British public, or the British representatives, the representatives of the British public in the forms of the politician and the army, they want them out of their country as they see it. I'm not saying they're right, but their needs are different. They want them out of their country. I wonder what would happen if the land of the Gurkha was invaded by British troops. I wonder what would happen. I wonder if the Gurkhas would fight on the side of the British, or would they go home and fight on the sides of their indigenous people? I don't know. 0161 228 2255. Might be a bad parallel. Anyway, good news for the Gurkhas. Although it's not over yet, the court decision doesn't mean that those Gurkhas who choose to, about 2,000 of them, can now reside in the United Kingdom. Doesn't mean that. What it means is, what the instruction is, because I think it was a judicial review more than anything, but I think the ruling is that the British government will now have to reconsider its opinion. That doesn't mean it has to change it. It just means it has to reconsider it. Now, they can reconsider it and come up with the same answers, probably. It's unlikely. They rarely do such a thing, because they could face themselves in court once again. 0161 228 2255. Mark in Wigan. Hiya, Mark.
Hi, Alan. What it is, I'll start from the beginning, best place to start. Like, my wife got a bank loan, personal loan, a couple of years ago, and then she had it covered with an insurance through the same bank that if she come out to work or was sick, that the personal loan will be paid. Anyway, she had I'll tell you, she's got epilepsy, and she's had epilepsy for a while, but she was on medication, so she was allowed to work. So she took this loan out, and then she had to finish. She started having seizures, and she had to finish work. And she tried to make a claim of the insurance, and they said no, because it was a existing condition. So what we did, we paid the loan up, paid the rest of the insurance, which, even though it didn't work for her, we still had to pay it. Anyway, yesterday I was looking through the daily paper, and in the paper there's a company from Warrington who say that if you've been paying like this insurance, they can get you the money back and all this.
It's called payment protection plans.
So you know about it, do you?
I do know about payment protection plans, yeah. They're a complete, not a rip-off in many people's eyes.
But what I'm asking you, I don't know if they're kosher or not, this company, which I've got every confidence that they are kosher, but the only thing is, they're taking a percentage, but they also want £30 administration fees up front. Now, is it a blag or is it not a blag?
I don't know whether it's a blag or whether it's not a blag, but the obstacle, the hurdle you will have to overcome is the hurdle that the insurance company took on a risk that they didn't know they were taking on. And that is, your wife had a medical condition that she did not disclose.
Oh, but she did disclose it.
Okay. So they took on the risk knowing that that condition existed.
Yes.
Did they write back and say, we will not cover her for the event or anything relating to her current condition?
They didn't, no. It was done over the phone, and then she just had to sign something. But if I can just stop you for a second, Alan, I'm sorry for butting in.
It's all right, sure. Go on.
The guy from the who I rang yesterday out of the paper said, if they've not asked you, have you got these conditions, it's down to them then, because they are the truth. He said both ways are looking at it. If you've said you've got it and they still insure you, they're liable. But if they've not asked you the questions,
well, first of all,
they're still liable. That's what he said.
First of all, I would say that he's not. I'm not saying he's wrong. I'm saying that he's not asked you enough questions to be right or wrong.
Okay.
Insurance companies, when they ask you, have you got any medical condition? If you reply yes, and they ask you nothing else, then you can argue that they've taken that into account. What they usually do is they say, let us make it easier. Let us say you'd had a heart attack. If you'd had a heart attack, they would say, well, we will cover you, but not if your future inability to pay is a result of a heart attack or some other heart condition related to the one you've already got. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So they eliminate that from the protection. In other words, if you get made redundant, if you get hit by a lorry, whatever, we cover all of that. If you develop a new disease, we cover all of that, but we don't cover the disease you've already got.
Yes.
Because why would you protect someone against something they're already suffering from? You wouldn't, because they're suffering from it. There's no insurance policy in the world going to make you better. So, I think when you look at the paperwork, you may discover that they eliminated anything related to your wife's epilepsy from their cover. I suspect that's what will be decided. Now, you say you did it over the phone, but then you said she had to sign something. What did she sign? What did it say on what she signed?
It's going back a while. I can't remember.
You didn't keep a copy of it?
She may have.
Well, check it. Well, if she did, find it and look at it, because I think she might have signed away any protection involving the illness she was, the declared illness, as it were. Yeah. And if that is so, I don't think there's anyone going to get you your money back.
Right,
so you need to find out what was on that form. Because if she's signed saying, yeah, OK, if I come out of work due to epilepsy, I don't get paid, you're stuffed.
Mm-hmm.
You're stuffed. Now, if they don't say that, and if you're absolutely certain that it was declared, the epilepsy was declared, then you've got a case. Also, when she signed, did it say on there that they might have just sent you the bog standard form which she signed, which said, have you got any illnesses, and none were highlighted, and she signed it. You need to find out what she signed.
Right.
Now, I wouldn't bother paying 30 quid up front, because I suspect if you went to see a lawyer would tell you whether the case was worth pursuing in his or her view, and if it was worth pursuing, he might even pursue it on the basis of no win, no fee.
Yes, well...
Because if he's successful, the insurance company will pay his fees. The £30 administration fee might well be an insurance policy to protect the the person fighting your case, this firm you claim in Warrington fighting your case, to protect them from their own costs? I don't know. But the first thing, find that piece of paper. Find out what that says.
Smashing. It's just that the guy said it was no win, no fee with them.
Well, yeah, but the 30 quid, they call it administration because it saves messing about, usually.
Yeah.
But the 30 quid is so that they will then buy a policy, usually. Often, not usually, often they'll buy a policy which protects them. You see, if they win the case on no win, no fee, if they win the case, the other side pays their fees.
Yeah.
If they lose the case, the other side expects them to pay, or you, if you like, to pay their fees, the loser's fee. But they can get an insurance policy against that if the case has some merit.
Thanks very much.
All right, mate. Good
Thanks a lot.
Have a good
Bye.
day. 0161 228 2255. Has anybody ever been successful claiming from a payment protection plan on a loan? Which magazine and various others say they're a rip-off? Just gone 12 on BBC Radio Manchester. News headlines, Mark Edwardson.
A former priest who sexually abused 7 boys at a Catholic school in South Manchester has been jailed for 6 years. Shares in Britain's major banks have risen in anticipation that the United States Congress will tonight approve America's $700 billion scheme to ease the financial crisis. And the Conservatives have promised that, if elected, they'll reverse government plans they say will mean the end of weekly rubbish collections in England within 5 years. Manchester's weather, a rather cold day with scattered blustery showers. You can expect temperatures to reach just 13 Celsius.
BBC Radio Manchester, 2020 traffic.
If you're using the M62 and you're travelling eastbound towards Manchester, a lane's closed on the entry slip because of a broken down lorry that's having a tyre change at junction 8 at Burtonwood Road. It's the inside lane of the 2 that's closed off. And if you're using the M60 at the moment, traffic seems to be moving well. Thankfully, that vehicle that was involved in the collision has now been recovered from the road, junction 17 at Prestwich. Traffic seems to be moving fairly well. And on the Metrolink, tram stations at Piccadilly and Piccadilly Gardens are closed now for the next 8 weeks, whilst engineering works take place on the tracks. Don't forget, though, if you can update me further, call in 0161 244 4951. I'm Cara Banks.
Decongesting Manchester, one car at a time. 2020 traffic.
BBC Radio Manchester.
Are you all right? Good. 0161 228 2255. Derek in Manchester. Are you, Derek?
Hello there, how are you doing?
I'm not bad.
Good. It was just what you were mentioning, the Gurkhas earlier on.
Yeah.
To be quite honest, they shouldn't have even had to go to court over this. They've fought for the British Army for approximately 200 years. We've got terrorists walking through our borders wanting to do nothing but blow us up, and we're keeping them on social security. We're actually debating about whether we should let ex-servicemen stay in this country. It's unbelievable.
Couple of questions there. Can you tell me of these terrorists who are walking through our borders?
Well, the government have got the police, the security services were looking at 2,000. That was about 2 years ago. I don't think the figure's been updated since
Let me
then.
ask you again. Can you tell me of any person who's been brought to court, let alone convicted, brought to court on a charge of terrorism, who, to quote you, walked through our borders?
Well, there was plenty of them. There was the second lot of suicide bombers after the London bombings. The second lot that tried it on were immigrants, by the way. They were from Algiers.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't.
So we've got it.
They flew through the borders. It might not have walked.
So we've got it to 4.
Sorry?
So we've got it to 4.
Yeah, we've also got the security services saying that they're looking into approximately, or I'm going back a couple of years now, they've not updated the figures since, but they were looking into approximately 2,000.
I'd always be wary of the security services, who, quite frankly, have done nothing but balls up since they came into existence, but
Not
never
quite
mind.
right, but I mean, then again, so governments for letting these in the first place.
Let us go back to the Gurkhas. Now, there are very few people that would argue with you when we talk about Gurkhas winning VCs and all of that. And of the chaps that were there yesterday, I think the case was brought by 5. It was a test case, but brought by 5 of them. I think 2 of them were about 40% of the living VC holders today. So no one would argue with those. But what you then said, and I'm not saying you're wrong, I'm just wondering whether you meant it. What you then said was that anyone who's served in the forces should be allowed to live here. Is that what you meant to say?
If if anyone has served in our
I meant
services-
ours, yes.
Yeah, of course he should.
Do you know how many there are?
Well, there'll be quite a lot, I would imagine.
Quite a lot.
Yeah.
Do you want to
Yeah.
pitch a number at that?
I won't pitch a number at it
Okay.
because I don't know. I'm not.
Because
I'm
in
not-
the Second World War, and some of the Gurkhas were talking about that, in the Second World War, a very substantial chunk of India fought on the side of the UK.
It did, and the ones that wanted to come over here have come over here. But also,
Well, no, they haven't. No, they haven't.
Well, a lot of them have.
quite-
A lot of them have.
Quite a,
Quite a lot of them have.
quite a lot of them might have done, but imagine if in India at the moment there are 3, 4, 5,000 people who are directly connected to the British military decided they wanted to come over, they'd be prevented. But if you got your way with the regulations, they couldn't be prevented because they
But
would...
when you're saying directly connected with the military, how many are there now?
I don't know.
There's not that many now.
Well, if we went...
You're talking about during the Second World War.
just-
Well, I'm very sorry, but
they're
I would
not the
imagine
only
majority,
people that-
majority of them are not here anymore, are they?
I was going to go on to say there are other nations who have fought alongside the British but not been in the British Army. There are those that have fought as part of the British Army. If you say, as you did, that you want everyone that served in the British forces to be allowed in the UK, to reside in the UK at the end of their service, you actually create many, many thousands of people with the right of domain, and I'm not sure you want that.
Yeah, to be quite honest, I was talking about a group of people who have actually served in the British Army as a regiment, which they've been serving with us for the last 200 years. You're not talking about now people who happen to have gone to war, gone to war just because their land was threatened as well, and they decided they'd jump on the same side.
I don't want to upset you. I don't want to upset you too much, but I've already conceded that most people would support the idea of the Gurkhas coming, but many of the individuals that served as Gurkhas, they served with the British Army, not in it.
Well, I thought they were a regiment of the British Army.
It is, well, not always. It's very easy to make the case, I'm not going to, it would be churlish, but it's very easy to make the case that the majority of Gurkhas that served the British forces did so as mercenaries.
Yeah, at the end of the day,
Now, are you now going to say that all mercenaries that fought for the British should be allowed in as well, or just the ones you like?
Well, I would have said the Gurkhas have certainly got a special case. I really would.
Well, okay,
but I mean, at the end of the day, as I say, you're not talking about people who've just jumped on side because their land happened to be threatened as well, and they decided that they were going to be allied with Britain. I mean, that'd be ridiculous to say anyway. But as I say, the Gurkhas was an established regiment.
It is what you did say.
Well, it isn't what I said.
Okay.
No, it might be what you said. It certainly wasn't what I said.
What you said was everybody who served in the British forces. You're now starting to dissemble that.
Well, you're trying to say everyone that served on the same side as the British. Well, I mean, that's ridiculous because, I mean, at the end of the day, during the Second World War, I dare say half the world was on the same side. But at the end of the day, you wouldn't expect all them to come here. Although, having said that, they probably, an awful lot of them probably have.
The population of India is a couple of billion.
Well, a couple of billion didn't serve in our forces, did they?
What I'm trying to get to, you see, you think I'm trying to argue against you, and what I'm trying to get is your definition of who should come and who shouldn't. Now, we've established that it's the Gurkhas, because everybody knows they're lovely little yellow people and they fight like dogs. Everybody knows that. Everybody knows that. So we'll go with that.
Yeah, and they were an actual British regiment.
Like I said, Derek, I'm trying to find out what it is you want. Now, the Gurkhas we've conceded. Fine. Not got a problem with that. Not got a problem with any of it. Who else? Anyone else?
I can't think of anyone else off the top of my head, no.
That's rather what I thought. OK, good on you, mate. 0161 228 2255. The Gurkhas should be allowed to come to Britain. All of them. Every single one of them. Except the ones that, well, he doesn't say. Yeah. What about those who've served? Young lad in the paper the other day. Well, about a month ago, a young woman. And this young woman was of Caribbean descent. Her husband was Caribbean descent. They were both born and brought up in the Caribbean. He came over here to serve in the British Army, not in a Caribbean regiment, but actually as a soldier in the British Army. He was recruited, he did his job, he got killed, and his wife, widow, is now being told she's got to go home. She hasn't got the right of domain. Ludicrous? Inevitable? I don't know. Ted in Moston said, I've had it with this country. The government are becoming more Hitleresque by the day. Adolf would be proud of the Labour Party with their smoking measures. I thought we had freedom of choice in this country. It seems we don't. Everything apparently kills you nowadays, including, but not limited to, meat, water, those new light bulbs. With them... I don't understand that sentence, but never mind, the new light bulbs and mobile phone masts. But of course, Islamic extremists pose no threat at all. Try telling that to the 53 killed on 7/7, says Ted in Moston. Well, I don't think anyone has said Islamic extremists pose no threat, Ted. I think what people might have said, and it's hard to argue with them, what people might have said, that not everyone who worships Islam is an Islamic extremist. Not everyone, indeed, the overwhelming majority, I would suggest to you, are not. But no matter. 0161 228 2255 if you want to join us. Radio Manchester at bbc.co.uk, and you can text on 07786 206 951. It's easy because that's how I like it. In fact, it's the only way I can manage it. Towards the end yesterday, Denise sent me an email that I didn't quite grasp, and I then asked for an explanation, and she sent that, but I didn't have time to read it, so here it is. All the incidents, it was about the motorway cops programme, and she said she couldn't believe what she'd seen. All the incidents on the motorway, this is related to the motorway cops programme, all the incidents on the motorway were relating to illegal immigrants. The most frightening of all was two blokes who were picked up walking down the motorway. The police commented that they'd probably just jumped off the back of a lorry, and they stopped them. They didn't speak a word of English except to say the name of the town they were heading for. They were from Iran. They were taken to the police station, and the police said the paperwork they would have to fill in was phenomenal. So instead of checking if they were wanted by Interpol for rape, murder, terrorism leanings or whatever, or any other misdemeanour, they were given a cup of tea, pointed to the right bus to get. So obviously the police must have given them the bus fare because they only had €2 on them, and it beggared belief that the police said to them, when you get to your destination, go to the immigration office and report in. Alan, says Denise, I could not believe it. The policewoman said, we've not got a clue how many illegal immigrants are in this country because no record's kept. Well, if you think about it, you can't keep a record of how many illegal immigrants there are because they don't tell you. People don't burgle their way into the country and say, I'm over here if you want to count me. They go into hiding of one form or another. But there you are. Alan, I couldn't believe it. She says, Jesus wept. I could imagine those two wetting themselves, laughing on the bus, texting their mates in Iran. Come over here, we're in Clover. Nice police, tea and biscuits, bus fare. Come to England, they're soft. But I suppose if everyone in Iran came to England, we wouldn't have to worry about the mad mullahs who seem to want to remain in Iran. Just a thought. Glyn in Macclesfield. Hiya, Glyn.
Hi, Alan.
What can we do for you?
I was just ringing you up about the payment protection plans. You said, did you know anybody that had been paid out on one?
Oh, yeah, go on.
As much as I'm dead against them, actually, I just think they're all a big fiddle. My sister-in-law, unfortunately, passed away last year. She had cancer. She lived on the Isle of Man. I was helping a brother-in-law go through all his paperwork, and we came across the loan repayments for the car. They'd taken out a loan over 3 years to buy the car with a payment protection plan. They told them that she had the cancer, that it was in remission. And we presumed at the time that they'd taken out the payment protection plan if something happened with her, to cover the monthly payments, if she was ill with something else, really. We didn't expect them to pay out anything on the car. We filled the form in, we got a doctor's letter, sent it off and thought, well, that'll be the last we'll hear of it. And 10 days later, they rang up and said, yep, you've got a claim and we'll pay you out in full. I wish I could remember the name of the person I was out driving. I wish I could remember the name of the company, but I can't. But we were absolutely gobsmacked. They paid out about £8,000 and that was that.
Excellent.
So,
Excellent.
So I'm very, very surprised, but there you go. But on the whole, I hate them.
Why do you hate them, given that you've had success?
Well, just that I think that's the one success that I've heard. Unfortunately, it happened to our family, and for that one success, I've heard of so many others where they just seem to want to riddle out of things. On the percentage-wise, I think we were perhaps lucky. I don't know. I don't think sympathy comes into finances when they come to pay things out, but I was very surprised that they actually paid out on that.
All right, mate. Well, thank you for that. It's reassuring to know that sometimes people do get their money. I was talking earlier about a teenager who was mugged by some topless women, topless blondes, it said. I don't know where he was looking, but anyway, topless blondes who were wearing only stockings and suspenders, apparently. I'll leave that thought with you. Anyway, he got mugged. It was in Florida, so it's just not worth the journey, is it? But he was mugged in Florida, and he had 50 quid took off him. And Neil in Birmingham says 50 quid wouldn't get you through the door at the Hoylake House of Pain. The guy got a good deal. A former orderly queue to be mugged, yeah, quite. 0161 228 2255. Alan, I've found a better paid job than even yours. It's in the Manchester Evening News today. It's a woman who gave customers details and fiddled more than £230,000, and all she got was 2 years in jail. Or the Hilton Hotel with 4 square meals a day and a PlayStation. Yeah, 230,000. I didn't see that case, but yeah, 230,000 is not bad, so that works out 115,000 a year, and only 2 years in prison. So there you are, 115,000 a year. There's not a lot earns that. In fact, I don't think anyone earns that, do they? The kind of people who get paid that never earn it. Cliff in Sale. Hiya, Cliff.
Hi, Alan. You okay?
Yeah.
You throw me a bit now going on about topless blondes and things like that. I'm all confused.
I think that's how they work.
I know.
Go on. You may feel a hand in your trouser pocket now and think, oh, fantastic, it's after your wallet. Go on, anyway.
I just wanted to ask you a stupid question without having to go to people that charge you loads of money for saying yes or no. My uncle is our only relative left in the south of Ireland, and he wants to have a will written. He's quite old. He wants to have a will written, and he wants to have a power of attorney written. Now, he's asked us if we could do this from this end. Could we have it written in England and take it over to Southern Ireland for him to sign? And then we could sort of take control of his affairs and make life easier for him having to deal with various things. Now, would that be legal? That's the question I wanted to ask. Would it be legal if it was written here?
Well, where it's written is irrelevant.
Right.
Where it's meant to apply is what counts.
Yeah,
now,
yeah.
in order to get it written in this country, you would have to have somebody write it who knows the law of Ireland.
Right.
Now, your chances of finding a solicitor, even in the sort of Irish-influenced Manchester, the chances of finding a solicitor who practices Irish law, very, very slim indeed. Very slim. So it's the law of Ireland. I don't know whether power of attorney even exists in the Republic. I don't know. So I'm afraid, even if it was written here under Irish law, in other words, it was written under the aegis of Irish law, it would then have to obey all the laws of Ireland, and it would have to be, I suspect, signed over there. If it was, let us reverse it. If you were in Ireland and he was here, if you wrote the equivalent of a power of attorney in Ireland and then came over here, you would still have to get the thing signed and operated according to English law, which means you'd have to witness it, he'd have to sign it, there'd have to be a notary public involved, it'd have to be registered, and all the things that has to be done. So you need to know Irish law, and frankly, I've not got a clue.
I know, it's difficult.
So the most safe way is for him to do it in Ireland.
In Ireland, right.
Because even if you did it, let us say you did it here and all of that, or even he does it there. Let us say he does it and nominates you as the people to look after him. Well, there are then other complications because you might not be able to enter into a contract with somebody in Ireland. because it's not enforceable in the British courts or the Irish courts because you're abroad. So when he dies, for example, the undertaker may say to you, well, give me the money up front and I'll bury him for you, but I'm not going to bury him without the money because you might not pay me, and where am I going to get it from?
Yeah.
I can't sue you.
Got you. So the best thing probably would be for us to go over there and sort it out with him in Ireland.
Or for him to do it in Ireland. If he's not up to that, then yes, for you to go over there and do it with him. But be aware that as British subjects, you may well not be entitled to do that because you're not Irish subjects.
Yeah, I know.
Now, you have the right of domain and all that, and most of our laws reflect each other, but not all. We are separate countries.
Yeah. All right, thank you very much.
All right, mate. So you need to find a solicitor practising in Irish law. There's loads of them in Ireland.
All right,
all right, mate. Have a good day. 0161 228 2255. Does anybody know what is the equivalent in Irish law of the British power of attorney? What is the equivalent? I don't think it's even called power of attorney anymore, is it? Or is it? I don't know. Very bizarre. It's getting on. No, it's not. It's just gone 20 to 1 on BBC Radio Manchester, and Mark Edwardson's got the headlines.
A former priest who sexually abused 7 boys at a Catholic school in South Manchester has been jailed for 6 years. 67-year-old William Green committed the offences while he was a teacher at St Bede's College in Whalley Range. The stock markets welcomed the European Union's decision to approve the Treasury's bailout of the mortgage lender Bradford and Bingley. And the flood watch has been issued for the River Mersey near Bramall, Stockport, Sale, Altrincham and Urmston. The Environment Agency says there's a possibility low-lying roads and land could be flooded. Manchester's weather, showers with some hail, and it'll be cold too, highs of 13 Celsius.
BBC Radio Manchester, 2020 traffic.
Take a quick look now, firstly, to the M60, and traffic at the moment seems to be moving fairly well between junction 18 at Sinister Island and junction 13 at Worsley. That broken down lorry on the M62 Manchester bound now being removed from the carriageway, junction 8 at Burtonwood Road, so traffic starting to pick up as well around that area. And in Weast, Stott Lane still closed in both directions whilst resurfacing work continues today between Eccles Old Road and Meadowgate Road. And don't forget, if you're stuck in a queue, maybe I've not mentioned it, update us if you can on 0161 244 4951. I'm Cara Banks.
BBC Radio Manchester, Sports with Dennis Lloyd.
Good afternoon. Oldham Rugby League Club have parted company with coach Steve Deakin following Sunday's second National League Two grand final defeat in successive seasons. Oldham Chief Executive Chris Hamilton decided against offering Deakin a new contract after nearly 3 seasons with his hometown club. Deakin told BBC Radio Manchester he understands the decision.
I knew at the start of the year that I was charged with the responsibility of making sure that we got promotion, and I feel that we had a very good year. We made the quarter-final of the Northern Rail and the quarter-final of the Challenge Cup. The main objective was to get promotion to NFP1, and we fell 40 minutes short of that on Sunday, and I guess the consequence of that is the fact that manifested itself in the club not offering a contract for next year.
Salford City Reds have confirmed the signings of Rob Parker from Warrington and Dean McIlivray from St Helens for the 2009 season. As expected, Parker signs on a 1-year deal, whilst McIlivray has put pen to paper on a 2-year contract. Paul Sculthorpe has confirmed he's in negotiations to remain with St Helens in a coaching capacity. The 30-year-old announced his retirement 2 weeks ago after struggling with injuries for much of the year. Paul Scholes is expected to be out for up to 6 to 8 weeks with medial ligament damage he suffered in last night's 3-0 win at Aalborg in the Champions League. Wayne Rooney took a knock to his ankle in the match and is a doubt for Saturday's trip to Blackburn. Cristiano Ronaldo has praised the performance of teammate Dimitar Berbatov in last night's victory. The Bulgarian broke his scoring duck by netting twice, and Ronaldo says he's a great addition to the side.
Everyone knows he's a good player, and the style is different than Carlos and Rooney. And but I think more 2 or 3 games will be better together because he's a fantastic player and he's going to help the team a lot.
Manchester City midfielder Vincent Kompany is expected to shake off a slight knee problem and face AC Ammonia of Cyprus in the UEFA Cup tomorrow. Kompany suffered the knock in the defeat by Wigan on Sunday but has made a good recovery. Oldham legend Andy Ritchie has backed manager John Sheridan's pre-season prediction that the club can achieve automatic promotion. The Latics are second of League One after 8 games, and Ritchie believes Sheridan's comments are just what the team needs.
The players need a little bit of an aim to try and attain, and I think that's what he was trying to do with that statement. But I think he's ambitious, and he thinks that he's got the squad now that can challenge to go up, and I'm certainly thinking that way myself from the early season games that they've played.
Sales Philippe Saint-Andre has won the Director of Rugby for the month of September after guiding the Sharks to the top of the Guinness Premiership. Luke McAllister has been named the Player of the Month. Sale, meanwhile, will put their 100% record on the line this evening when they travel to London Irish in the league. The Sharks are in the middle of a run of 3 games in 9 days, and coach Kingsley Jones is expecting the Exiles to be tough opposition.
They're a side that like to play rugby. You know, our defence is a Guinness Premiership record set. I mean, a lot of talk about us not scoring tries, but we haven't conceded a try. And it's fantastic to have that. But London Irish will certainly test that. They're a team that can attack. They're lethal from turnover balls. They've got a fantastic back three. So it's another test for us and another step up.
You can hear commentary on that game online at bbc.co.uk/Manchester. Kickoff is at 7:45. And a scan has revealed Newcastle and England fly half Johnny Wilkinson dislocated his left knee during last night's Premiership game with Gloucester. Wilkinson will now receive further specialist advice and treatment.
The next live action on the Northwest's biggest sports station.
Manchester City take on FC Ammonia of Cyprus in the second leg of the first round of the UEFA Cup tomorrow evening. We've got all the build-up and full match commentary from 7.
BBC Radio Manchester.
Oh, very good day to you. How are you? Jim in Trafford Park. Hello, Jim.
Hi, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir.
I just heard you talking to Derek about Derek in Manchester on about the Gurkhas.
The Gurkhas, yes.
It just reminded me of when I was in the army myself, and we were stationed in Singapore, Malaya, for nearly 3 years in the 70s, 71 to 74.
Yeah.
And what is it about the Gurkhas? One day we were lying in let me explain. The Australians and New Zealanders were involved in Vietnam. The British Army wasn't, and we were there. In part of the Aztec force, basically the British Army, and we were the jungle fighters, if you understand. And after 3 years, we were sort of the experts, if you like. Yeah. And the Australians and New Zealanders, before they went to Vietnam, they came in for a bit of practice, if you like.
Yeah.
So one day we were lying in wait, in ambush for we were there for 3 or 4 days, and we had a Gurkha guy with us, a sergeant major. And he was with us, and we lay there, as I say, for 3 or 4 days, and then it was very quiet, as you know, but then these Australians platoon that we were expecting did turn up, and lo and behold, our Gurkha Sergeant Major started snoring, which gave the game away because you could hear him snoring a mile away. So they're not superhumans, and they're great guys, right enough, and I actually think they should be allowed to stay in Britain.
Just the Gurkhas or other soldiers that served alongside?
Well, no, the Gurkhas, because they've been loyal for over 200 years. But, you know, interestingly enough, Alan, I've been reading a paper here, and there's a lady called Gillian Bailey, and she did a sponsored wing walk, standing on an aircraft wings, and to raise funds for the Gurkhas.
I didn't know her name until you told me, but I remember that, yes.
Gillian Bailey it was. And she raised over 200 odd pounds. It's all small donations, like, you know. But, you know, the thing is, this is the interesting bit that you might not believe. You won't believe me, but it was actually organised by the Solihull British National Party. Now, there you go. What about
that? I knew that there'd been some involvement. I didn't know that they'd organised it.
Yeah.
Because I know there was a certain amount of, should we say, distancing by the people involved, and now I understand why. Good on you, mate.
Okay.
Thank you for that. How was Malaya, by the way? My uncle was in Malaya a bit earlier than you, but how was it for you?
We were stationed in Nisun Barracks in Singapore, and then we were up all over Malaya, I can't remember the place. But it was very hot, sticky and sweaty. And,
my uncle got malaria when he was in Malaya. It didn't do him any favours.
We had tablets for that.
Yeah. But don't they drive you... Those tablets drive you doolally, though, don't they?
They weren't very nice and tasty.
Yeah,
drink water purification, green water.
I know it.
Oh,
But don't they give you all kinds of well, not hallucinations, but violent dreams?
well, I think I was hallucinating half the time I was there. I'm not sure.
Might have been the gin. Good
yeah.
on you, Jim. Thanks,
Right,
mate.
cheers.
0161 228 2255. The Gurkhas, they weren't superhuman, but to use his phrase, they were good guys right enough. And they also had the Aussies there. They had the Aussies learning how to fight in the jungle. You would think they had jungle enough of their own up north, but it's not the same kind of jungle, is it, really? 0161 228 2255. If you've something to say, that's good. Radio Manchester at bbc.co.uk. And, of course, you can text on 07786 206 951. All you have to do is pick up the phone and share. Dead straightforward. Yeah. Well, I've just got a list of all the people that have won on the premium bonds. Well, all the numbers. I think they should give you the names so we can go round their houses and show us bottoms.
Mornings sound better with Eamon O'Neill and Diane Oxbury.
Eamon and Diane.
How do you make antifreeze? Put ice cubes in a bed. How do you make a Swiss roll? Push him down the hill. How do you make a Venetian blind? Poke his eyes out.
Oh, it's pathetic, which is why it tickles us.
Eamon and Diane and you.
There's nowhere like home, and for me, Manchester is home. When I'm home in the mornings, listen to you on the radio, it just makes you happy just to be in nice, familiar surroundings.
Station with Eamon and Diane for breakfast. After that, the world's your oyster. Back tomorrow morning from 6 at BBC Radio Manchester.
Shadow Foreign Secretary William Hague has told a Conservative conference in Birmingham that if Ireland's featuring heavily on Beswick today, if Ireland doesn't reverse its decision not to ratify the Lisbon Treaty, then an incoming Tory government would hold a referendum in Britain. Now, I've read that sentence twice, and I'm going to read it again, and hopefully I'll understand it. The Shadow Foreign Secretary, William Hague, has told the Conservative Conference in Birmingham that if Ireland doesn't reverse its decision not to ratify the Lisbon Treaty, then an incoming Tory government would hold a referendum in Britain. Now, that's weird, because at the moment, the Lisbon Treaty is dead in the water. It's dead in the water because Ireland voted against its ratification, so it can't go ahead. Ireland are being pressurised by various European countries, particularly the French, but they're being pressured to hold another referendum in the hope that they'll get a yes vote. But if they get a yes vote, that will mean that the Lisbon Treaty is then alive again. So the Tories would be, or anyone else would be sensible to hold a referendum, you might say. But I don't understand. The sentence doesn't make sense, because he says if they don't reverse the decision not to ratify, then there'll be a referendum in Britain if the Tories get in. Presumably then, if they do reverse the decision not to ratify, in other words, they decide to ratify, the Tories won't hold a referendum. So they'll hold a referendum if it makes absolutely no flaming difference whatsoever, but they won't hold one if it could be important. I'm completely lost. I think it might be a misinterpretation of what he said. I think it's more likely to be the reporting rather than what he said. But at the moment, it makes absolutely no sense at all. But there you are. But I've shared it with you, and that's my job. Yeah, I'm not taking the blame. I don't see why I should. Hi, Alan. Re-smoking. This is from Lewis in Bolton. The psychology of the smoker is many-faceted. Although the non-smoker will find the images on the cigarette packets repulsive, along with many smokers, I dare say, it will change very little in the behaviour of the deeply nicotine-addicted smoker. The reason for this is that the smoker and many professionals still don't understand that the person has become the cigarette and the cigarette the person, in essence, and the identities are one with regards to the addiction. The will or the pathology of the smoker is now the will of the cigarette. Is that what they call them? Will's whiffs? Never mind. The first step to separate the two psychologically by the smoker regaining his personality and stop calling themselves smoker. Secondly, for them to regain dignity and stop being treated like outcasts from society, which will stop the forbidden fruit syndrome. The rest is done by support and bloody-mindedness. I suppose if a person defines him or herself as a smoker, then, yes, it's going to be harder for that person to stop smoking, because they say, I am a smoker, why would I stop smoking? I understand the logic. I'm not saying it's wrong, but it flies in the face of all the other addiction therapies. Well, all the other, if you like, self-controlled addiction therapies. If you go to, I've never been to one, I hasten to add, but if you go to an Alcoholics or a Narcotics Anonymous meeting, or a mixture of both, the first thing they say when they're invited to share is they say, my name is Albert Ecklethwaite, my apologies to him, my name is Albert Ecklethwaite, and I'm an alcoholic. So they do that because apparently, which, as I say, Lewis, is entirely the opposite of what you're saying, apparently, until you recognise you're an addict, you have some difficulty in overcoming that and maintaining forever. So when an alcoholic wakes up in the morning, he or she says, I am an alcoholic, but today I will fight the desire to drink. Whereas if you wake up and say, I used to be an alcoholic, then you'll think, well, I used to be one, I'm not one now, I'll have a drink. There you are, back on the line. And it's the same with all addictions. So I think, Lewis, your theory, whilst it, on the face of it, makes very good sense, appears to fly in the face of accepted wisdom and experience. But as I say, that doesn't necessarily make it wrong. We like things that fly in the face of accepted wisdom and experience. Terry in Tilsley said, I had a friend who took out a loan to buy a motorbike and purchased with it a payment protection plan. Unfortunately, he was killed in a road traffic accident, not on his motorbike either, before he made one payment on the loan, and after his death, they paid out in full. Terry in Tilsley. Well, of course, had he not taken out the payment protection plan, the motorcycle loan company wouldn't have got his money anyway, on account of him being dead. Now, obviously, if he left an estate, if there was an estate, then the estate might have gone after it, but the motorbike was still there. The motorbike, because he wasn't involved in the accident, the motorbike was still there, so they could have taken the motorbike and take that. It depends what kind of credit he was on, but he may well have wasted his money in that respect. I'm going to read this because why not? Why should I be the only one to suffer? Richard in Stockport says, there are ghosts sitting in the cottage bar in Glasgow's Carlton area. The locals call them the missing generation, the men who died before their time. Sometimes the drinkers dip their head or lift their pints to them. They may not see them, but all the drinkers know they are there. For here, in this multi-deprived inner city area, the average life expectancy of a male is just 53.9 years. In Iraq, after 10 years of sanctions, a war and a continuing conflict, suicide bombs and insurgency, the average man has a good chance of making it into his 60s. The life expectancy there of a male is 67.49. In Iran, it's 69.96. In Korea, it's 71.37. And in the Gaza Strip, it's 70.5. These statistics, he tells me, are available via the Guardian newspaper. So there we have it. You've got a better chance of making it to your 60s in Iran, North Korea, Gaza, and heaven forfend, Iraq, than you have in the inner city area of Carlton in Glasgow. Lord above. Lord above. if those figures are correct, and I have no reason to doubt them, that is quite a chastening piece of information, is it not? 0161228 2255. One of the things that the Conservatives... I know it's unfair, really, because we had 4 days of dyed-in-the-wool Labour last week, and we were expecting to do 4 days of dyed-in-the-wool Conservative this week, but it hasn't quite worked out on account of all the trouble in the finance world. But they've got a few things knocking about, and we might have a look at them in the next hour, but we might talk to you as well if you call on the usual number.
Got any unusual hobbies? Meet someone who fills their weekends with a very specific passion. Tonight from 10 with me, Sam Walker.
I've also found something on a website about enduring power of attorney in Ireland. If I get the chance, I'll tell you that as well. Oh, do try to stay awake at the back.
95.1 FM, DAB Digital Radio, and the World Wide Web. This is Manchester. BBC Radio Manchester.
At 1 o'clock, a former priest is jailed after abusing boys at a Manchester school. And Bolton's bin men rubbish a real terms pay cut.
Oldham Rugby League Club are on the lookout for a new coach.
Well, this afternoon it's cold and it's windy and we've got scattered blustery showers. Top temperatures just 13 Celsius.
And if you're heading on the M66 coming down from Bury at Junction 2 towards Junction 4, where it meets up with the Sinister Island roundabout, you should have a clearing ahead of you.
Good afternoon, I'm Mark Edwardson. A former priest who sexually abused 7 boys at a Catholic school in South Manchester has been jailed for 6 years. BBC Radio Manchester's Mairead O'Kane's been following the story.
67-year-old William Green committed the offences in the 1960s and 70s while he was a teacher at St Bede's College in Whalley Range. This man was one of his victims. He was just 12 years old when the abuse began.
It carried on all the time I was at school. My exam results went downhill. In 5th year, I was suspended from school. Looking back now, he's stolen my education from me.
The former priest from Aspel in Wigan was charged with 33 counts of indecent assault against 9 boys under 16. He pleaded guilty to 27 of the charges relating to 7 children. Richard Scorer from Pannoni's Solicitors represented the victims, who only came forward to report the abuse last year.
The impact on the victims has been huge, and we've heard today about the 6-year sentence imposed on William Green. The reality is that for most of these victims, they will suffer a life sentence, and they have suffered over the many years since these offences took place, and the offences have affected them in many ways in relation to work, in relation to their relationships and other issues.
A spokeswoman for St Bede's College says it's a matter of great regret to all concerned, and she says their thoughts and prayers are with those affected.
Mairead O'Kane reporting. Shares in most of Britain's biggest banks have risen as hopes grow that the plan for the huge bailout of the American financial sector will be approved. The Senate votes on it today. Here, shares in HBOS, the bank due to be taken over by Lloyds TSB, are up by 12%. There's concern that the deal may not go through, although the 2 banks and the government insist it will. Output from manufacturing in Britain shrank last month at the fastest rate for nearly 17 years. The information comes from a survey of purchasing managers. Domestic demand was particularly weak, with customers cancelling orders. Bin men in Bolton are amongst 1,700 council staff who will lose out after a salary review. A number of equal pay claims have been lodged with councils across the country. Bolton councils decided that almost 1 in 5 workers will be paid less. Almost 40%, though, will get an increase in their salaries. This bin man told BBC Radio Manchester he doesn't think anyone should have to lose out.
I understand people are lower paid than us and probably do an harder job maybe, or work as hard as us, but I think they should have been brought up to meet us at least, because we're the bottom of the pile. It's a case of rich get richer, poor get poorer for me, because, you know, you can't take the pants off a bare bottom.
If you live in Bramhall, Stockport, Sale, Altrincham or Urmston, you should know about a flood watch that's been issued by the Environment Agency. It says you should be ready for flooding of low-lying land and roads next to the River Mersey. The agency's also warning householders and businesses that nearby tributaries may also be affected. The image of smoking has to be changed to try and discourage people from taking up the habit. That's according to a consultant respiratory physician at Wythenshawe Hospital. Dr Phil Barber welcomes the use of shocking images of diseases caused by smoking, which are on cigarette packets from today. But he says more needs to be done to change the way smoking's viewed.
The tobacco industry is spending millions on still pursuing smoking as a cool habit. We've got motor racing, we've got pictures of film stars and models fagging it in national newspapers. So I think we do need to take some steps to try and present a different image for all age groups.
BBC Radio Manchester Sports with Dennis Lloyd.
Oldham Rugby League Club are looking for a new coach after parting company with Steve Deakin. Oldham Chief Executive Chris Hamilton decided against offering Deakin a new contract following Sunday's second successive League Two grand final defeat. Paul Sculthorpe has confirmed he's in negotiations to remain with St Helens in a coaching capacity. The 30-year-old announced his retirement 2 weeks ago after struggling with injuries for much of the year. Manchester City midfielder Vincent Kompany is expected to shake off a slight knee problem and be ready to face AC Ammonia in the UEFA Cup tomorrow. Kompany suffered the knock in the defeat by Wigan on Sunday. We've got full match commentary of the first round second leg match on BBC Radio Manchester from 7. And Sale Sharks will be aiming to maintain their 100% start to the season when they travel to London Irish in the Guinness Premiership tonight. The Sharks have won 4 from 4 without conceding a try. Log on to our website for full match commentary from 7:45.
BBC Radio Manchester satellite weather with Heather Stott.
Well, this afternoon it's cold and it's windy, and we've got 1 or 2 scattered blustery showers. Some of those are going to be heavy, and there's a risk of some hail and even hearing a rumble of thunder. There will be some bright or sunny intervals, but with fresh to near gale force west northwesterly winds, it really does feel quite cold with temperatures only 13 Celsius.
Lunchtimes belong to Beswick.
Allan Beswick.
BBC Radio Manchester.
Are you all right? Good. 0161 228 2255. Radio Manchester at bbc.co.uk and the text number 07786 206 951. I think that's right. Usually have it written down, but I've swapped boots. I know. Well, I know it's silly, but I try not to bother learning anything I can find immediately. You know, it's like people who say, what you doing a week on Tuesday? I haven't a clue. Well, I know I'm coming here, assuming I've not said something that gets me sacked beforehand. Come on, it's been touch and go a few times. But I'm kind of proud of that in a strange way. But I know I'll be here a week on Tuesday. But everything else, that's what the diary's for. You write it in the diary. If you didn't need to write it in the diary, why would you have one? Exactly. You've no idea what I'm on about. Well, it's still the case. Shall we have a look at this? All right. It was Cliff who asked about power of attorney. Now, power of attorney, there used to be 2 kinds in this country, enduring and the other one. Forgotten the other one. It doesn't matter. But it doesn't apply, although it's similar, it doesn't apply in Ireland, and I think you would have to have it made in Ireland anyway under Irish law. But this is what it says on the website, the Department of Health and Children in Ireland. This is not Britain, this is Ireland, just in case you start making notes. And this is what it says, and I'm not going to do the accent. In some countries, that would be terrible, wouldn't it? In some countries, it's possible to appoint... Anyway, that'd be Northern Ireland any road. How would you look at that? Anyway, in some countries, it's possible... Val Dunican, he's come in. In some countries, it is possible to appoint someone else to make decisions on your behalf if you're not capable of making them yourself. In Ireland, this power is granted by creating an enduring power of attorney. An enduring power of attorney, however, specifically does not allow for the making of healthcare decisions by another person. While you may suggest to your doctor or hospital that the wishes of certain people may be taken into account, you cannot give anyone else any legal right to make decisions about your health care. Neither can you ensure that the doctor or hospital will abide by the wishes of that third party. So, Cliff, if the idea of the enduring power of attorney was to have some say in the medical care of your, I think you said it was an uncle, but of your relative, then you could earn the right, you could be granted by your uncle in advance the right to have a say, but you could not be the primary decider. You could not. That cannot be done, according to what I've just read in Ireland. There's also a thing called an advance care directive. There's all sorts of things. For example, if a healthcare issue arises and the patient's incapable of making a decision, it is the practice to consult with the next of kin. But it's not clear what legal basis there is for this, as next of kin has no general right to make decisions on behalf of adults. Medical ethics currently in force in Ireland state that consultation with next of kin is desirable if the patient is unable to make a decision, or to communicate, and provides for a second opinion if there is a difference of opinion between the family and the doctor. Next of kin are spouses, children, parents, siblings. Partners have no legal status and may experience difficulties in seeing patients if family members object. This is the case whether you're in a heterosexual or a homosexual relationship. So that bit doesn't apply. But it was interesting. The Irish system, quite understandably, is not the same as ours, but it is similar. But similar isn't enough. And it's a foreign land. You wouldn't expect to be able to make a regulation in this country that applied in Beirut. Well, neither can you make one in this country that applies in Ballymena. Actually, Ballymena's in the north, so you could. Ballykirk. I've just invented that, just for the alliteration. 0161 228 228 2255. And, we've done the motorcycle with Terry and his payment protection plan, so we're all right with that. Thought we'd better get that sorted. Well, if you don't, you're in serious trouble. Susan sent me this. No, Susan didn't. No, it's another Allan. I don't know why I thought he was called other, but it's another Allan. Anyway, don't all so-called lefties spit out the hated word Tory? Everyone's a Tory from the day he's born until the day he dies, says Allan. Ask a professional sociologist how much money he would like to receive for the... Sorry, I've got that wrong. Ask a professed socialist how much money he would like to receive for the house he's selling. Ask the same man how much he wants to pay for the car he is buying. Ask him then how much he wants to pay the possibly socialist employee of his who comes to clean his windows. This usually gets him stuttering a little about a fair figure. He's lying, of course. His truthful answer would have been as little as possible. It may have been Churchill, whose very names make lefties puff smoke out of their ears, who said, socialism is a philosophy of envy. You must think I'm accusing you of being a closet lefty, although listening to you, as I often do, I must admit being tempted. Political beliefs, like religious ones, are often not influenced by intelligence or even common sense. Shoot me down, as I've learned to know that you will. If you can, says Allan. I'm an Allan B too, he says. Good on you. I, however, have a lifelong advantage of being born in Wigan. How bizarre. Wiganers have another advantage. They can all write letters like this one, even when their tongues might be poking into their cheeks from time to time. Well, let's have a look at that. I don't agree with you that all lefties, I can't speak for all, and I'm not going to speak for myself, but I don't think lefties or socialists are such that they attempt to get things at the lowest price. I think they do sometimes attempt to get the fairest price. And I know lots of people who would perceive themselves to be, should we say, lefties, who pay their people, be they employees, or indeed their window cleaner, or indeed some other domestic help, they pay them more than the going rate. They pay them what they think is a fair rate for the job, rather than just saying, well, I could get them for this. They don't. They pay them a decent rate. Now, clearly, they'll be paying them less than they are earning, because otherwise penury follows. Today, by the way, if you're interested, and you might be, the new rate comes in for the minimum wage. Oh, don't start dancing on the table. I promise you, it's nothing to write home about, as they say. But today, the new rates for the minimum wage come in. They're not a lot. They're still a complete and utter disgrace. They really are. Absolutely shameful. But nonetheless, they are in. And therefore, they are to be applied from today. So if you're somebody who works and gets paid, first of all, you have my sympathy. If you work and get paid the minimum wage, then you are entitled, with effect from today, to a pay rise. And if you don't get it, then frankly, it's scandalous, but there are things you can do about it. The government is planning a fresh crackdown on bosses who fail to pay the national minimum wage. Ministers announced as the latest increase in the statutory rate came in force. So today, the hourly rate for adult workers increases to the princely sum of £5.73 per hour. £5.73 per hour, whilst for 18 to 22-year-olds, it'll increase to £4.77 per hour, and for 16 and 17-year-olds, it's £3.53 per hour. And tough new penalties come in force next April, including fines for employers who genuinely forgot to increase wages when a worker turns 22. Now, that's interesting. That's interesting. Yeah. Genuinely forgot. So a person is charged with failing to pay the minimum wage from the date an employee becomes 22. And they're brought to the courts, and their defence is, I'm sorry. I just forgot. I'm so sorry. I simply forgot. And the court says, we accept your defence, sir. We agree with you. We believe that you forgot. Now we're going to fine you, and fine you quite severely. Extraordinary. David said, I've just heard about smoking. I was in hospital recently, and it seems that 1/3 of doctors smoke. They surely are the most well aware of the consequences and still choose to continue. It's a lot to ask us ordinary people give up. Well, David, doctors are ordinary people too. And yes, some of them smoke. And it was established years and years ago, I don't know whether it still applies, but it was established years and years ago that doctors were amongst the highest percentage of their profession who were alcoholic or alcohol abusers. So just because you know what it can do to you doesn't mean, even if you know in absolute detail, doesn't mean that you aren't going to be stupid and still do it. That's the nature of humanity. But it doesn't affect whether they're good doctors or not. Although, frankly, I once went to a dentist who was a smoker. We'd moved house, so I was looking for a new dentist. And I went to a dentist, and I'm sorry to own up to this, really. My dad will be ashamed of me, but not just for this. But I go private. The difference between private and National Health now is minimal. It's quite a bit different then. And I went private because they'd do it when I wanted it done, and they'd do it how I wanted it done, and all the rest of it. I don't care what my excuse is, it's shameful. Anyway, so I went to this dentist who was charging me, when you work out the charging rates of a private dentist, about £300 an hour. I mean, I know you're only there for 10 minutes, but you still end up with a huge bill. So he's charging me about £300 an hour. And I went back like that, and he tipped the seat back, and because it was a private one, he had a machine, what did it? And you sat there, and the desk went, the seat went like that, and got flat. And then he leaned over, he bloody stank. Absolutely stank, because he was a smoker. A dentist who's been breathing on people all day, that pongy pig.
Your Sunday Morning Lion with Mike Shaft.
Do you ever find yourself at odds with any of the religions?
If they feel very much that their way is the only way to God, then, of course, they will find an interfaith minister and what we stand for something quite difficult.
Mike Shaft.
Are we going to survive this crisis?
It's pretty serious, and it is. I do believe the Lord is speaking through this. What he's actually saying is for wiser heads than me, but as I said, there is a real chance for Christians to make a material difference.
Manchester's faith, spirit, and life's difficult questions with Mike Shaft.
Whose fault is it?
Sunday morning from 7 on BBC Radio Manchester.
A very good day to you. How are you? All right? Oh, very good. 0161228 2255. If you've something to say, feel free. And one of our Davids says, being a Tory must be very confusing today. They now want more regulations, not fewer. They also now want more railway lines, not fewer. Beecham must be confused. Well, he's not the only one confused. But yes, it is odd, isn't it, that the party that's always talked about freeing up from regulation is now calling for regulation, and the regulation it wants to impose is upon the very, very people that their most successful Prime Minister ever rendered less control, indeed set free. But that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. Come on, for God's sake. It's not very often. The Labour Party's just as bad. We've had 10 years of Blair sucking up to the city and telling us what wonderful gods they were, particularly the ones that give him £1 million for a peerage. So he's sucking up to the city. Now the city's full of evil, thieving dogs. Nothing's changed. The only thing that's changed is where the slimy politicians think the votes are. 1:20 on BBC Radio Manchester. News headlines. Mark Edwardson.
A former priest who sexually abused 7 boys at a Catholic school in South Manchester has been jailed for 6 years. William Green committed the offences in the 1960s and 70s while he was a teacher at St Bede's College in Whalley Range. The Tory leader David Cameron is preparing to address his party's conference and take on Labour's claim that now is not the time for a novice to lead the country. And shares in most of Britain's biggest banks have risen as hopes grow that the plan for the huge bailout of the American financial sector will be approved. Manchester's weather, blustery showers this afternoon. There may even be some hail. Temperatures reaching just 13 Celsius.
BBC Radio Manchester, 2020 traffic.
If you're travelling in the Rochdale area, watch out for closures on Oldham Road, which is the A671. It's closed whilst gas maintenance work continues between Wood Street and Milnrow Road. And in Little Hulton, Peel Lane, down to 1 lane because of temporary traffic lights underway, whilst repairs are carried out to the railway bridge on Peel Lane between Madamswood Road and Quarry Pond Road. And if you can update me further today, call in on 0161 244 4951. I'm Cara Banks.
2020 traffic means you get an update every 20 minutes through the day.
I was just listening to that advert for Mike Shaft on Sunday morning. You know, with all the bless you, my son, and all that. 2 hours of Shaft and Evans a guarantee. Yeah, absolutely. I used to sit opposite to him, and I'm on my way to hell, so a fat lot of use he was. Anyway, I do appreciate it's my own fault. We can't blame Mike for everything. But today in The Guardian, and I saw this the other day on what we call the wires, this electronic information gazooby guy. I know I'm not supposed to talk jargon, but you might be able to help me. Can we come up with another name for it? Because I promise you, I know you don't care what goes on inside this building. Frankly, I don't give a bugger myself. But if I say I read it on the wires, I get a bloody email of somebody in a suit in an office I've never been near, probably well carpeted with its own coffee machine. But I get an email of somebody like that who says the public don't know what the wires are. They think they're things that they have connecting their hairdryer to the wall. Oh, God, yeah. Well, your licence fee's paying for that bugger. I don't know who he is. Anyway, but I can't think of another name, so every time I say the wires, I have to think, well, it's this computerised information delivery thingamajiggly-bob. But there isn't a proper name for it. There isn't a name. I know. There's nothing I can do. So every time I say the wires, I've got the whole bloody palaver. So if you can come up with a name for it, can you and me agree? You know, declare a unilateral... Can we make a unilateral declaration of independence? And within this 2 hour country of ours. It'll be our own country. We've got our own political party in the Bugger All Party. Well, we're going to have our own country. For 2 hours every lunchtime, weekdays, we'll be in Beswick land. And in Beswick land, well, I'll call it something else then. Talking Crapland. It doesn't matter. Oh, that's that. Oh, no, that's Lapland, isn't it? No, we'll call it Crapland. Yeah, we'll have reindeers. Do you think it'll rain here? Well, it's raining already. We'll call it Crapland for 2 hours of Crapland every day. The word wires is an acceptable term. Can we agree that? Put your hands up if you agree. Unanimous. Thank you. That's it. No, it isn't democracy, but we'll have that. So on the wires, I read the other day, and then I see it now, that somebody at the Guardian read it as well. But I kind of like it, and I don't doubt it at all. Because, well, we'll get to because in a minute, but scientists have uncovered an ancient and elaborate source of pain relief that's based purely on the power of the mind, according to research published today. Well, I don't know whether I read it early on the wires, or whether the Guardian's a bit behind the times and they're saying it's today, but it doesn't matter. Brain scans of volunteers were subjected to electrical shocks, and it revealed that Roman Catholics felt less pain than atheists and agnostics when they were shown a painting of the Virgin Mary. Images of the volunteers' brains showed that in devout believers, an area of the brain that suppresses reactions to threatening situations lit up when they were shown the picture. Now, this has all been done at Oxford University by research led by Katja Weich. She recruited... Is that Katja? Is that male or female? It doesn't say. This should help. Recruiting 12 non-believers and 12 practising Roman Catholic students. And in the test, participants were shown either an image of the Virgin Mary by 17th century Italian painter Sassoferrato, or Leonardo da Vinci's 15th century Lady with an Ermine. After looking at the picture for 30 seconds, the volunteers were zapped with electrical pulses for 12 seconds each time they were asked to rank how painful the shocks were on a scale of 0 to 100. And the Roman Catholics and non-believers reported similar levels of pain. In other words, the pain is 8 or 9 or 7 or 25, 96, whatever. But an average through the 12 was about the same for the level of pain. So they were experiencing the same amount of pain, and yet, the two groups responded differently to the Virgin Mary painting, with Catholics experiencing 12% less reaction to the pain. Extraordinary. Absolutely extraordinary. Or is it? Or is it? Because if you talk to people who've endured pain, you hear people talk about the pain threshold, don't you? You hear people saying, oh dear, he or she has got a high pain threshold, he or she has got a low pain threshold. And I'm not sure what that phrase means. I know that people have undergone operations which might be deemed to be painful, but during the course of the operation, they were hypnotised. They were convinced by an outside person, someone other than themselves. They were persuaded, whatever it is that hypnosis does, and I'm not sure, but whatever it does, the process enabled the body to be fooled. These are poor words for it, I know, but enabled the body to be fooled by the mind. Now, we know that this exists. We know from that experience, the scientific experience that I've done with people who have, I suppose, undergone surgery with hypnosis, whereas others have undergone it with pain medicine and anaesthetics of one kind or another. So that we know, but we also know that the mind can do these things, and it can even do them, if you like, retrospectively. And the evidence of that, well, I tell you, there are something like 6,750 million pieces of evidence about the place, because women have a baby, no woman in her right mind would have the second one. Because I'm told, I've never endured it, but I'm told it's a very, very painful experience. I'm beautiful and all those other patronising crap words we get, but an extremely painful experience many, many times. And yet, a few months down the road, and they're prepared to go through it again. So we know that the mind is well able to control our reaction to pain. I don't think it can control the pain itself. I don't think people are physically feeling less or more. I don't know. It's just weird. It's weird. Anyway, there it is. The God Botherers get us again. It's an outrage and a scandal. 0161 228 2255. Nothing beats the pain of sitting opposite Mike Shaft, that I promise you. Tom in Atherton says, I think I'll genuinely forget to declare some income on my tax return. But we know the state doesn't stand for that. It's only okay if you rip off your fellow man. Well, they've changed that, Tom. That's the point I was making. And if you do genuinely forget to declare something on your income tax return, then you will suffer no real consequence, other than perhaps paying interest. Once it is discovered, if it is discovered, paying interest on the tax that you then have to pay and should have paid. So let's say you're a 25% taxpayer and 1 year you forget to declare 1,000 quid. Roughly that means you owe the taxman 250 quid. The taxman discovers it when he does an audit or whatever. He discovers it, and what he'll say to you is, well, you owe me 250 quid plus interest, and don't do it again, you very naughty boy. The tax people, and I've found this to my own surprise, but I also was told it many years ago by Barbara Castle, the tax people only want you to pay the right amount. They don't want to put you in jail. They don't want to punish you. They don't want to fine you. They just simply want you to pay the right amount. And if you make a mistake, and they believe it's a genuine mistake, they're not bothered. Neil in Bebbington says, how about news wires? The news wires. Well, that's two words, but yeah, the adjective does help a little, I guess. So maybe I'll try and remember that. Teddy Mostyn says, you don't have to call it Crapland, although I think he's meaning that. We could call the programme, we could call this 2 hours weekdays, we could call it the Democratic People's Republic of Beswick, based on the full name of North Korea, which is the least democratic country in the world. And for the wires, call it the network. Now, that means something different in broadcasting, though, Ted. So I did think of network, and it's a good word, and I'm grateful to you for it, but I can't use it because, of course, if we used it network, then round here, network means things like Radio 1, Radio 2. That's the network, so it doesn't quite work for us, but it's a good word. It would be otherwise. And also, I'm afraid I've got to pick holes in the Democratic People's Republic of Beswick, because they might think I'm talking about East Manchester. There are other Beswicks than me, which I found startling. I mean, the first time I saw Beswick was when I came here to work 20 years ago. And frankly, I was honoured. I thought, well, that's really nice. I mean, the reason I work for the BBC is because it's such a big organisation and a powerful organisation and all that. And I arrived here and I noticed that they'd named an estate after me, which I thought was really, really nice. And I thought when I left and was replaced by somebody called Smith, it'd be called Smith. But turns out that's not so. If it's out to do with the media, how's about the liars? Richard in Stockport, that's terrible. That's terrible, because if we call this, the liars for the wires. Oh, I thought you meant I thought you were going to name our country, the 2 hours of this every day. I thought you were going to name that the liars. That would have been awfully cruel. I mean, call me one by all means, but all those people that phone in and email and all that, including your good self, Richard, no, the liars for the wires. I'm not sure, because the media, I don't think the media, I suppose I would say this, wouldn't I? But I don't think the media does lie. I mean, occasionally they do. Well, perhaps frequently they do. I'm not sure. I don't think they lie. I think they might put a spin on what they hear and what they report. They have a political bias. I mean, the BBC and ITV and the independent radio stations, we have rules laid down by government that mean that we have to try to be unbiased. That doesn't mean each individual person and each individual programme, otherwise we'd be well knackered round here, wouldn't we? Well, I wouldn't be. But overall, we have to try and reflect more than one opinion, should we say. But there you are, yeah, very interesting. I don't know what we're going to call it. We're probably the news wires is what we'll end up with, which is remarkably uncreative in my view. Unlike the wires themselves, which people think are entirely created. No matter. Tony Blair's wife, Cherie, and we must applaud her loyalty, but she's reported today as having said that her husband, Anthony Winston Blair, isn't it? Or is it John Winston Lennon? Can't remember. Anyway, Anthony Blair. What's his middle name? Blair. And don't say that word that begins with B, because that's just not kind. Oh, well, go on then, say it. Doesn't matter. Anyway, Anthony Blair, Esquire, LLBMC, former Prime Minister, soon to be Lord, I suspect, but no matter. Anthony Blair, according to his wife, will leave as big a footprint on history as Winston Churchill. What do you say to that? Now, before you start saying, not a bloody chance, yeah, fine, but just think about the other thing. As big a footprint, what does that mean? Well, it means a number of things, but the first one is that he will leave a very large footprint, A, because he was Prime Minister for a decade, and B, he did something that nobody has ever done before. I'm not sure that Churchill actually did anything that no one had done before. Not altogether sure that he did. Did a lot of wonderful things, of course he did, but I'm not sure he did anything that no one has done before. But what Blair did, which no one has done before, was win 3 elections as a Labour Party leader. So, come on, did something unique. That'll leave a footprint. So, is Cherie Blair right when she says history will put my husband on a par with Churchill? 0161 228 2255. Bill in Macclesfield. Hiya, Bill.
Good afternoon, sir. Are you well?
Yeah, I'm all right, I think.
Oh, very good. Little chat on the word Tory, which is commonly used in the North and by yourself and most of the listeners on this programme. I can't understand why the proper name has never been adapted up the North. I mean, the actual name was officially changed about 125 years ago to Conservative. I very, very rarely hear the word Conservative used. Have you got any views on that?
No.
I mean, you're a man who likes the correct wordage, aren't you?
I am a man.
You are using the wrong wordage. You do realise that, don't you?
Well, I'm not, you see.
Aren't you not?
No.
Because it was officially changed
but
by... it wasn't... It was the chap who at the time of Gladstone, the Conservative.
Yeah, well, OK.
What was his name again?
God almighty, don't pick on me. I've no idea. Too specific a question for me. You did indeed, dear God. It's not mastermind, you know. I may be in a black chair, but I'm wearing a green one tomorrow. But, I mean, when you hear the word Tory, what do you think?
Well, when the word, I think that when it's used today, it displays to me at the back of my mind a sort of 17th century landed gentry person. That's what it conveys to me.
Does it?
Yes, and that's why it was basically changed to get away from that image.
Well, yes, I can see why they would want in those times and henceforth to get away from that image, and a change of name does it. It's rather like Labour. When I say Labour, you notice what I'm saying. I'm not saying New Labour, but they effectively changed their name a decade ago.
But was it done officially?
Well, it doesn't matter whether it's done officially.
It does matter.
Does
it does matter. Particularly somebody like you who likes things exactly.
Well, no, I want words. No, you see, I want someone to say exactly what they mean without a doubt. I definitely want people to say exactly what they mean, and I do my utmost, and fail miserably, I'm sure, but I do my utmost to do that myself. But I'm not sure that if I report the Tory leader, you think of some 19th century fellow who happens to own half of Surrey. If I say to you the Tory leader, you think of David Cameron.
Well, not to me, no. I know what it. I know he is. I know he is. What you mean? You mean the Conservative leader?
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, the word Tory indicates a party. It's the oldest party, of course, in Britain by many, many moons. The Whig Party, which I think dissolved, and the main remnants went into the Liberal Party. But I mean, you never hear the word Whig now, do you? Used by the Liberals. But I mean, that's where the main rump went to, many, many moons ago, of course. And I just think that it just portrays an ancient image to me. But that's me. I just think that it would be more fairer to use, if there is such a word as fair, in the modern day world. But I mean, I'm not a member of the Conservative Party, but I would like to know what their views are on that. The further south you go, the more likely to use the word Conservative.
I think that's probably correct.
And
yes.
I think the BBC, which I am convinced is largely populated by lefties, of course, generate this ancient word Tory.
I don't know what you use. I mean, you just take us in a different direction with that. The slight aside that the BBC...
It's not a slight, it's my view on that, because of what I hear, or the way I hear things.
Well, it was a slight aside in the sentence, if we're going for accuracy.
Well, I'm not being rude to you, personally.
No, indeed.
It's a slight...
Whether it's your view or not, within the sentence, it was a slight aside. I didn't...
Oh, right, okay.
I understand
what you mean, a slight aside. Yeah,
meaning small rather than a slight in the other sense, an offence.
It's very relevant, though, because they're the main propagandas now.
Well...
Radio and television.
I accept that, but you seem to suggest, in your slight aside, that the BBC was run by lefties and was predominantly lefties. And I'm not sure I agree with that.
Well, perhaps the word leftist, I should possibly have said, to me, more left of centre, more likely to have a sympathy towards the Labour view than the Conservative, although I must say that Cameron has taken the party, it doesn't have the same meaning now, Conservative and Labour, does it? I mean, the old barriers, the old sort of barriers, as you might say, are down now, and there's not a lot between them. I mean, probably in some ways Labour is more to the right than the Conservatives, if you take them as the word. I mean, it doesn't have the same meaning now, does it?
I will accept your posit that the parties are not as far apart, as it were. They are all trying to occupy what's known as the middle ground.
Yeah.
And terms like left and right are clumsy. I'm not bothered about that, but it was the suggestion that the BBC is populated by people who are slightly left of centre, and I'm not even sure that is true.
Well, all I can say, Alan, is, and this is not why I form my views, because I do try to form mine independently, but it is a commonly held view as I go out into the world and speak to people in general. So I don't think I'm making this up.
I'm not suggesting you're making it up. I'm suggesting I will even accept that it's a commonly held view. What I won't accept is that it's an accurate one. Stay where you are, Bill, if you want to. I'll come back to you, but with this to do, which is a fair bit. But it's just gone 20 to 2 on BBC Radio Manchester, and Mairead O'Kane has the headlines.
A man who was sexually abused by a former priest at a Manchester school has been speaking of the trauma he suffered. William Green's been jailed for 6 years. He committed the offences in the 60s and 1970s while he was a teacher at St Bede's College in Whalley Range. The chief executive of Bolton Council's defending the authority's pay review, which means almost 1 in 5 staff will face a real terms pay cut. Some staff will see their wages frozen for 3 years as part of a salary review. Just under 40% will see an increase. And the Tory leader David Cameron's preparing to address his party's conference and take on Labour's claim that now is not the time for a novice to lead the country. Mr Cameron's expected to say he's ready to make unpopular decisions for the long-term good of the country. Manchester's weather, blustery showers this afternoon. There may be some hail, temperatures reaching just 13 Celsius.
BBC Radio Manchester, 2020 traffic.
Oh, I've driven them off with their impatience.
BBC Radio Manchester, Sports with Steve Wilde.
So you want me to fill the gap then, do you, Beswick? Is that how it works?
I'm not bothered, it's only sport. You can go if you want.
I was going to talk about rugby league, how dare you? It's like a slap in the face.
With a wet kipper. Do go on.
Oldham's failure to gain promotion to Rugby League's National League One has cost Steve Deacon his job as coach. Sunday's grand final defeat to Doncaster proved to be his last match in charge after 3 years. And despite not having his contract renewed, Deacon said it was an amicable parting of the ways.
Yeah, I don't have any animosity. I spoke to both Bill and Chris and thanked them for giving me the opportunity to coach Oldham. It's been an honour and a privilege to be able to coach them for 3 seasons. And it was a clean break. 3 years perhaps is long enough. It's just now up to somebody else to take the mantle on and hopefully onwards and upwards for Oldham Rugby League Club.
Well, Salford have signed Rob Parker from Warrington and Dean McGillivray from St Helens for the 2009 season. As expected, Parker signs a 1-year deal whilst McGillivray has put pen to paper on a 2-year deal. And Paul Sculthorpe's confirmed he's in negotiations to remain with St Helens in a coaching capacity. The 30-year-old announced his retirement 2 weeks ago after struggling with injuries for much of the past year. Now some news just in, and it's not good news for Manchester United. It appears midfielder Paul Scholes has suffered worse injury than was first feared last night in Denmark. He suffered medial ligament damage in the Champions League victory and will be out for 10 weeks. It was thought perhaps he'd be out for 6 to 8 weeks, but Paul Scholes will be sidelined for Manchester United for the next 10 weeks, which has somewhat put a blot on what was otherwise a good night for Manchester United. And Alex Ferguson was relieved to see Dimitar Berbatov open his United goal-scoring account. The Reds boss felt it was important his £30 million signing didn't have to wait too long for his first United goal.
You always want to get your goal early after being transferred for such a amount of money. Particularly the second goal, he's doing it very well. That was a real striker's finish.
The Manchester City midfielder Vincent Kompany is expected to shake off a slight knee problem and face AC Ammonia of Cyprus in the UEFA Cup tomorrow. Kompany suffered the knock in the defeat by Wigan on Sunday, but has made a good recovery in the run-up to the first round, second leg match. Tonight in the Champions League, Chelsea go to the Romanian club Cluj and Liverpool are at home to PSV Eindhoven. Oldham Athletics' impressive start to the League One campaign has brought some words of praise from one of their most famous sons. Latics legend Andy Ritchie is now hopeful a run that's taken the side to second in the table can continue.
Absolutely fantastic. I'm so pleased for them. I'm so pleased for Shez because they've had a season where they got into the playoffs, didn't quite make it. So I'm really looking for them to keep it going. Top of the league at the minute is fantastic, and I spoke to John the other day and he's really pleased with the way things are going, but he knows it's a long haul and he's just got to keep the momentum going.
That's the former Oldham player and, of course, manager Andy Ritchie. In rugby union, Newcastle have confirmed Johnny Wilkinson sustained a dislocated left knee during last night's game at Gloucester. It had been feared the fly half had suffered ligament damage. It means England's record points scorer is a major doubt for the 4 autumn internationals, which begin in November. And that could, of course, open the door for Danny Cipriani to return after his broken ankle. He returns to Wasps this evening, 6 weeks ahead of schedule.
The next live action on the Northwest's biggest sports station
comes tomorrow evening as Manchester City play AC Ammonia in the UEFA Cup. It's the second leg of that first round tie, and it's live here from 7 o'clock.
BBC Radio Manchester.
A very good day. We were talking to Bill about whether we should rightly use the word Tory when referring to the Conservative Party. And he's right in what he says, both, shall we say, semantically and historically, or historically semantically. Anyway, if you type, as I did when I should have been doing the traffic, if you type Tory into Google, the thing that comes up first, and one presumes that they pay for that privilege because that's how Google works, the thing that comes up first, believe it or not, is the Conservative Party. Bill?
Alan, just to go back onto the Conservative Party, he was actually, I remember his name now, it was Benjamin Disraeli.
Good Lord.
Who changed the name.
Yeah.
Anyway, just to move on slightly to we were saying about the BBC.
Yeah.
Let me just give you another slight example, which I find, I can't explain it apart, but it does have a psychological effect that's been more important whenever it's named although with no votes individually in the American election, the name Obama is always used before McCain, and it certainly, when you think psychologically about it, that first name sticks, and does to me give them an advantage.
I have absolutely no idea whether that is correct. I mean, we'd have to do some research for that, and I don't know whether it's worth the energy of that. But
well, it probably isn't.
We will watch. No. When you say something like that, I'm absolutely intrigued. We shall watch and we shall listen. And whenever I hear, and they're all too bloody common now, but whenever I hear any reference to the American election, or indeed the candidates in the American election, I will listen with interest to see which name is first.
Yeah, another little observation, although we were just saying previously about the Conservative, i.e. Tory party, moving far to the left under Cameron, becoming far more liberal or such as. Ironically, it's many, many, many years, I don't think almost in my lifetime, that they've ever had a more Tory front bench. And most of them are ex-Etonians and multi-billionaires. Certainly, Cameron's not short of a bob or two, to put it mildly. He's certainly top-notch. And the other fellow, Osborne, he certainly is as well.
But isn't that as it should be?
Oh, yes, I mean...
At the end of the day, isn't it exactly how it should be?
It's not exactly National Socialism, is it?
Not by any stretch of the imagination. Good on you, Bill.
Take care.
Worth the wait. I love it. Bill says we shouldn't use the word Tory. It's historically inaccurate. They did away with the word Tory and replaced it with the word Conservative. Well, all right. 0161228 2255. The good thing about the word Tory is you don't have to say Conservative with a big C to distinguish from Conservative with a little c. I know.
Britain and America, two great nations linked throughout history.
Yeah, but I will start getting blamed for it. What the hell are you talking about?
But what about the people of our two countries?
I love hamburgers. I eat hamburger every day.
Every hour by the looks of you.
Who are they? What do they? How do you do?
My wife's about to have a baby. Computer says no.
It's time for Little Britain USA. Friday night from 9:30 on BBC One.
A very good day to you. How are you? 0161228 2255 if you've something to say. Ray in Bellevue. Hi, Ray.
Hi, Brian. Alan, I'm very sorry. I got your name wrong then.
Don't worry.
I'm sorry about that. Yeah, well, I phoned you today because I've remembered that in the last 12 to 18 months, I've read the Daily Mail, right? And on the inside pages, there was a page about British Muslims building a mosque in this country, which had a part of the architecture was having obelisks shaped like Scud missiles. Now, the thing is, I think this is a load of nonsense. And I saw this year a Chinese magazine with a picture of a newly built mosque in the Uyghur region of China, and it was a similar building to the photograph which was in the Daily Mail, which I read about the mosque. Now, the thing is, I don't think it would be allowed to build buildings like that, which represented the Scud missiles. I don't think that would be allowed, and I think that the author of that story is stirring up racism, and I think that the law should be looked at. We have laws against racism in this country. Now, I believe in free speech, yes, of course. Now, perhaps I think the journalist, he could say, well, I was only acting. He could say, well, that's what I've been told. I don't know, but he should know. He should know more than that. He should know what's right and what's wrong. An educated man like that. So I think that it's giving grist to the hate merchants who hate people because of their skin colour or their beliefs.
But that's how these things work, isn't it? The left and the right,
yes.
Newspapers, and with newspapers they're a lot more free than are the broadcast media, and with newspapers they take a position on stories. They openly take a position.
Yes.
The positions don't always fall in line with party politics, but frequently they do. Party politics don't apply in some cases. And the Daily Mail does have a concern, and expresses that concern frequently, about I'll use this phrase, they don't, the de-standard Britishness of our society. The Daily Mail thinks that British society, its view of British society is being polluted in a variety of ways, and they don't like it, and they write their stories in a way that expresses that distaste, and indeed they seek out those stories. It's the Daily Mail and its ilk that bring us stories of ludicrous regulation in Europe. And often those stories, when you examine them and dissect them, are actually the most extraordinary interpretation of what the regulations say. And that's fine. They're entitled to do that because they are selling a product to a section of society, rather like when I buy Private Eye.
Yes.
If it's not being scurrilous and saying that it hates everybody, then frankly I think I've been robbed.
Do you not think that this sort of journalism could lead to a racist murder, or do you think that would be wrong to say that?
I don't think it's wrong to say it, because when asked, my answer to is this possible is always yes, because just about everything is possible in the end. So could some misguided individual who also happens to read the Daily Mail, and they're not the same, but could some misguided individual cite the Daily Mail as one of the reasons for his bizarre and wicked view? Yeah, of course he could.
Yeah.
Would he legitimately be able to do so? I think not. We all have an obligation to read that which we read and to make our own judgments on the value and veracity of what we've read.
Yes. Well, you know, it is a practice now, I think, by some councils to call Christmas Winterval, the Winterval period.
Well, you see, I don't think it is. I'm not suggesting that you're misguided. I just think that I don't think there is any local authority in the United Kingdom who does not refer to Christmas as Christmas.
No.
I don't think there is. When Manchester City Council decides that it's going to have a celebration, they call it the Christmas market.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
And they have a Santa Claus on the roof of the building.
Well, yeah.
And that is also the case all over the place.
Yeah.
I mean, my own local authority, Warrington, have a crib. When I say my own, where I was brought up, they have a crib in the town hall gardens, a crib with the baby Jesus and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
And I don't think there is any local authority anywhere that doesn't say Christmas when it means Christmas.
Yes, yes.
Now, some local authorities also cock an idea and recognise the existence of Eid and recognise the existence of the Jewish New Year, which has just gone on Tuesday. I think it was Monday night. But there are all sorts of the Chinese New Year.
Yeah.
There are all sorts. I mean, we have a big celebration in Manchester at Chinese New Year, don't we? The dragon dance and all the rest of it.
I've been to Manchester. About 2001, I went to the Chinese New Year celebrations. It was very nice, and I do like Manchester. I remember saying to a girl, Jewish girl, well, it doesn't really matter if she's Jewish or not, but I thought I'd bring it up. But I said to her, I like Manchester because it's cosmopolitan.
Well, yeah,
but
to get back to your central theme, occasionally what will happen is some crackpot who happens to be employed by a local authority will decide that we're not going to do this about Christmas because it'll upset the Muslims, or it'll upset the Jews, or it'll upset God alone knows who. And that one individual makes that decision.
Yeah.
And a newspaper like the Daily Mail gets hold of it and says that, does this leap in its mind? It says this person works for the council, therefore its decision is supported by the council, therefore it must have been the council's decision. Which, of course, is rather like deciding that some of the crap I come out with on this programme is the idea of the BBC. They would run screaming as if from a burning building from some of the things I say.
I think the idea is not to take it too seriously.
I think that's the idea with most things, Ray. Good on you, mate.
Thank you.
Don't take anything too seriously, least of all this. We've scared the living daylights out of David, who says, I'm now getting worried. When I see a holy picture of the Virgin Mary or any pictures of the crucifixion, I don't feel any pain. Does it mean I've gone back to being a bloody Catholic? Poor beggar. We'll find out Sunday. See you tomorrow. Ta-ra now.
A Manchester Jewish student